Hey everyone, welcome back to Make the Music, and today I'll be going over my template for how to create the sound from Life Is But a Dream. No vocals in this one. I'm hoping to add that in a later video, but this album just came out from AVENGED Sevenfold, and so I wanted to get this out to you guys so you could get a breakdown of how I'm able to get close enough in emulating their sound. As always, you can find the multi-tracks for this session in the description down below if you'd like to check it out and see how I was able to accomplish this one. This was a difficult one to do, actually. One of the harder ones I had to do in terms of tracking the riffs. Very interesting riffs. A very interesting album overall. A very sort of progressive leaning. They're definitely taking risks and experimenting, and I can definitely applaud them for that. So let's get into the session here. You heard that playthrough, and let's break it down. Okay, so here's my session for Life Is But a Dream. Let's start with the mastering chain. I always think that's a good place to start here. So if we open up the mastering here, I'm using Virtual Mix Rack, adding a bit of top, a little bit of lows, and using Virtual Mix Bus there. Nothing too crazy. EQ, I took out some low mids. This is not like a super deep, muddy sounding record. It's definitely very clean and then has like quite a bit of sub. So a very unique sound here, and adding a bit of like upper mids in this case. SSL compressor, that's doing a bit of gain reduction here. Nothing too crazy. This is an over compressed or over limited sounding record. AVENGED Sevenfold likes to keep it that way. So there is some limiting going on, and then I'm using Ozone 10, of course, to EQ and dynamics match. I actually got pretty close. This isn't doing anything too crazy. Just helps me rein it in and get a little closer. So if I take off the master processing, helps bring the level of everything up, helps get it that mastered finished sound, but also keeps that snare from cutting through way too aggressively. This is why I like to do some limiting and some compressing early on in the mix process and the production process, because especially in a metal genre, that snare can way easily cut through too much. And so if you put on your final mastering chain, you're able to tell how that snare is going to react to your processing. So that's the master bus processing there. Now let's get to the drum sound. So for drums, I'm using Superior Drummer 3. I started with a Made of Metal kit here. This is just the default, but I modified it. So for the kick, I'm actually using a Metal Machine EZX. I'm using the kick 1 there. I didn't modify it in any way, but there's a lot of processing on these drums. Then for snare, I'm using the Sonar Artist Bronze from the Metal Machine kit. Really top end heavy, right? I used the envelope and offset to cut the snare off. There's not a lot of tail on this snare on this record, so I got rid of some of that. You hear it's really got that top end heavy ping sound. Toms are stock. Overheads are stock, and then the hat is just hat 2. So that's the kit. So you can basically get this with the Made of Metal and Metal Machine EZX, but I did do a lot of processing here as well. So like if I take all the drum processing off, okay, so there's a lot going on there. Let's break it down. On the drum bus, I'm using Virtual Mix Rack, Virtual Channel. These are all just subtle changes, but they all go a long ways, and it took a lot of tinkering to get there. Actually, it took a long time for me to dial this drum sound in. It's very unique sounding. And Virtual Channel on like the Neve, or not the Neve, but the SSL setting. And then I'm using the SSL style EQ, adding just a bit of top, just a little bit. Nothing too crazy, and a little shimmer and a little thickness, and then just a bit of compression. So all subtle moves, but they add up. You can see not even a crazy amount of bus compression there. So that's what's going on the drum bus. Then for the kick, quite a bit of processing. The kick needed much more, I would say, beef or low end sub almost. And then it has sort of that squishy top end sound that I took out some of those low mids that didn't need to be there. Similar thing here, I'm cutting out like some more mid-range and taking off the super shiny top. It didn't need to be there. And then stock compression. So let me have you hear the kick drum. So you can hear there's a lot of low mid rumble, and then I'm adding more smack in. This is what their kick sounds like. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's 100% there, but it's a lot closer. It's got that smack and attack sort of field. And here's the snare drum. Let's go to a part where you can actually hear the snare. Super top end, super pingy, a lot of attack, very Avenged Sevenfold-esque sounding. If I take the processing off, Just feels very dark and not very exciting. Lots of low mids gone, added tons of top, compressed it pretty hard. If you listen to the record, it's basically what it is. It's not like this giant roomy drum sound. It really is has a lot of attack. You can hear the precision, but it's not going for this over-the-top, exciting, ambient, cinematic drum sound. On overheads, cleaning up, taking out lows, adding highs, same thing with the room. So just cleaning up the drums overall was a big deal here. So that's the drum sound. Now let's go into the bass sounds, actually. So on this verse part, it sounds like there's an 808 playing. And so let me play you the track. Could that be a bass guitar? Yes. Could it be mixed in? But that sounds like an 808 to me. It doesn't surprise me with the experimenting they did on this album that maybe they used an 808 in sections. And it just sounded like that to me. So I used an 808. If you combine that with the drums, it's what it sounds like to me. And so what I did is I used Anna 2, which is just a virtual instrument synth. And I used an 808 patch from this. I'm using the bust up 808 patch. And then I took out, it was like way too buzzy. So I took out everything above 300 basically. And that plays through the whole song. I take down the volume a little bit in the chorus part, but you can hear that in the verse part. And now I do have a bass guitar here. Because it's the 808's in the verse, it's playing very quietly. So if I go to the chorus, there's like, I can't really hear the bass guitar that well in the mix. I don't know if it's intentional. So I kind of had to get it to fit. But for the bass, I added some top. I used the black channel compressor. I used the CLA mix hub just to add like some upper mids, take out some lower mids. And a limiter to really rein it in, not keep it from being too bouncy or keeping the track off balance really. So I use the high end to kind of add some attack back in because I'm limiting quite a bit. And I am using Bias FX2 as my amp, so I usually split my bass guitar sound between an amp and a DI, so there's just a DI sound. And then I am using this Bias FX2 amp sound. So typically I use this MM25 for Avenged Sevenfold stuff, the bass Superb Duo, and there's just a little blue compressor in the front, and that's what I'm doing for the bass guitar sound. It's not super prevalent in the track if I'm being honest about it. So if I have the drums and all the bass layers, that was also really difficult to track and play correctly. The bass part is very interesting. Okay, let's get to the rhythm guitars now. So first, let's get to the amp patch here because this is important. I did not use amp match for this song. I wanted to try and experiment and see if I could get it with just a regular amp. Typically, I would amp match to get it 100% close and use profiling, but I like to challenge myself and I like to show you guys that you don't need to use amp match all the time to get an album sound or to get a really good sound. So I wanted to start from scratch. It was part of the challenge. So I'm using the B101, which is just like a Friedman-ish amp, but I swapped out the cab to the Soldano cab. I'm using the SM57 and the Royer, and then I'm using some drive, pretty standard sort of drive settings there. These are the amp settings, quite a bit of mids. And so if you listen here, let me solo the guitars. I didn't get 100% there, but it sounds pretty good. I used some EQ, clean up some lows and highs, and it had some more mid-range. It's a very unique sounding guitar sound.
More money, more taste, more sex.
Theirs was a little brighter. Whenever I tried to add the brightness, it got too fizzy. So it was kind of a balance there. I think it fits well in my version of the track. I used a transient designer. This was kind of for this very, very difficult to play picking part that comes in the chorus. It sounded like there's a lot of attack. It was probably just played better to be honest, by Sinister Gates because he's such an amazing guitarist, but I had to make up for it in the mixing stage, and then some compression as well. And so that just helps keep those guitars consistent in the track. So here's the sound soloed. You can hear they sounded super soupy without the EQ, but they sounded much closer now. So there you go. There's the Life Is But a Dream sound taken from We Love You. No vocals yet. Hopefully, like I said, another video as I listen to the album more and get more excited about it. But anyways, let me know what you think. How well did I do in this one? This was a hard one, if I'm being honest about it. But I think I got pretty close with the track. And like I said, very unique production on this song. Find the multi-tracks down below. Please like and subscribe to the videos to let me know that you like this stuff and you want to see more of it. Or if you have any suggestions for albums or tracks you'd like me to match, leave it in a comment down below. Anyways, I will see you guys next time.